Well, you play the wicked stepmother, and the first question I ask is, well, why is she wicked? I mean, no one is purely evil. Everyone's got a motivation, and because it's a story about a girl who is essentially beautiful and kind and good, and has to find the courage within her to sort of overcome her circumstances. The stepmother sits in relief of that, and that she is the sort of the perversion of what happens to someone when the good is perverted. It often turns wicked. So I was interested in exploring what makes someone ugly or wicked. And even though a lot of the initial getting to know you with Lady Tremaine, who I play, and the stepdaughters is done sort of through montage and voiceover, through those little tiny vignettes, you hopefully begin to get a glimpse of the fact that this is a woman who's tried to start her life again and becomes intensely jealous of the deep affection that her new husband has for his daughter, who is Cinderella. And once he dies, and the financial pressures and the panic and that jealousy grow, and that is what makes her wicked, is that she's not young and not as beautiful and not as kind and not as good as Cinderella, and that in a way Cinderella becomes her nemesis, and to horrible ends. It's fantastic. It's really it was so much fun to be had. And also because you're collaborating with people like Ken and like Dante Ferretti and Sandy Powell and Moag Ross and Kay Giorgio, who did hair and makeup. So you're all collaborating on creating these extraordinary visuals. And when you're given a silhouette like that, say that Sandy created, and we tried to sort of make it a hybrid, almost like it was a period film told in the 1940s, like a 1940s version of period, then you have to rise to that silhouette. So it gives you so much. And I think what Ken was able to, or interested in finding, was that storybook theatricality, but with the core of truth. He didn't want to go for the high camp, which you can absolutely do in a fairy tale. He wanted to make it also quiet and true. So it was a balancing act trying to find those two things, but also inhabit the silhouette. It was great fun. When the prince and Cinderella began to dance, when Richard and Lily took the floor, it was really hard because obviously my character has to be suspicious and judgmental and profoundly jealous. It made me just want to weep, because here were these two young people who had worked so hard and so long on this dance. And I know what it's like to dance in a corset, and Lily was so... I mean, she literally was carrying around a whole merry-go-round with her, but they were so graceful and so true, and they kept the focus on one another. It was... I mean, I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. It was really, really moving. It's like when you go and see Billy Elliot on stage. Those boys can absolutely do what the character says they can do. And so you are transported by the actor's ability. And so those two young people moving around with this really complicated, beautiful dance that Rob Ashford had choreographed, it was profoundly moving. And, it was one of those moments where you thought, this has absolutely sort of superseded my expectations. Ken has great comic timing, and he's incredibly great with directorial details, like coming in and finessing something. And he's also very open, being an actor himself and such a great actor. He's very good at using the rehearsal time in the morning, because oftentimes you'll come on and every actor has a different process and a different way of getting into the role, and so he's able to incorporate everyone's process and make it feel like it's a collective effort. And it's a behemoth, the legacy of this being a Disney classic in cartoon form and a classic in a fairy tale sense. There's such an expectation. And he was able to find this way where the tone of the film is as at once sweet and delightful, but also sinister. And he was able to harness the domestic moments between people and characters, and also the really grand moments. I think he's got an inherent and wonderful sense of rhythm as a director. I'm a great lover of fairy tales. I grew up on them, and I read them constantly to my children, even though I've got 3 boys. I've still read them Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast and Snow White. I think I love fairy tales, and Cinderella in particular, because they deal with really complex issues that face children, but often in quite confronting ways. And so many stories that children get told now, I think, are always trying to avoid sadness, avoid conflict, make them feel like they're a hero that doesn't necessarily, they can overcome anything and the world is a perfect place. And the great thing about, those wonderful old timeless fairy tales like Cinderella is that they say that the world can be a nasty place out there, and you need a lot of courage and you need a lot of resilience, and you will fall down before you stand up. And I think they're all the things that happen to Cinderella. And there's I have 3 boys, so many films out there at the moment that have male superheroes at the fore. And this is really a story where kindness is a superpower. And that's something that Ken talked about really early on, and I found that really, really exciting. And it's a female-centric story. And I was really excited to be part of the telling of that. The first time I walked onto the set, even before it was lit, I was gobsmacked. I had to pick my jaw off the floor. And then to see what Sandy did with the costumes, it was really like an MGM Technicolor moment. I felt like I was transported back in terms of cinema. And so that was a wonderful storybook world to enter. And as soon as Lily came on, she's like a breath of fresh air. She's totally unaffected. She's like a glass of water. She allows you in, but gives so much back. And there's a generosity of spirit to her as a performer, which I think is really rare, and an incredible discipline and focus and depth. But she's also such a blithe spirit. So I think she's absolutely perfect for the role. She glows. I think it's a complete experience, and I've really fully realised that when we filmed the ball sequence. You just don't see that. You don't see those grand, romantic moments where you say, yes! There was a moment with all the extras. There's a couple of beautiful, really difficult lifts that Richard and Lily did in the dance, and everyone just erupted into applause naturally when it happened, because it was so beautiful. And I think because you're really genuinely rooting for her, and you don't. A couple of the times when obviously we all know the story, but we all know the story of Hamlet. But we go and see Hamlet over and over again because you want to think, maybe this time he will kill Claudius. And the best possible production of Hamlet makes you think that. And there were several scenes that we shot where I thought, maybe she's not going to find the courage to bite back at this woman. And so I was really surprised by a lot of the scenes. And I think because it's so true, and therefore truly funny and truly tragic, I think people are going to feel that they're being told the story for the first time.
Hey, what's happening, movie fans? I've got an interesting movie fact for all you Fast and Furious fans out there. Even if you're not, you can still stay tuned. Now, did you know that Michelle Rodriguez, who plays Letty, did not have a driver's license before she began filming for the first movie of the series? Interesting. So I wonder which one of the team taught her to drive. Who would be your choice of driving instructor? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for today. I'm Valerie, and remember, don't bark if you can't bite. See ya!